Good morning. Welcome to a Monday. It's December 9th. It's 7:43 in the morning here in western Iowa. Good morning upon you. We have some cold air coming into the country, and it's going to head south and into the southeast. And here in the Midwest, we're going to hang on to that cold air for most of this week. Right now out there, here are your hazards way up there in the northeast. Winter weather advisories, so be advised there'll be winter weather. Same for you, northern Minnesota, up into North Dakota, up into Montana. That's where we're seeing the wintry weather is along the Canadian border. Let me throw you in there too, Wisconsin, Michigan. Then we see a lot of fog there in the plains, so some moisture return there. We have a little system that's fading out. So some lingering snow into Colorado and New Mexico that will be, as it sinks south, will be disappearing. Then we have a freeze watch for parts of southern Arizona. And then in California, it's mostly wind. Red flag warning there in Southern California with a high fire danger. Some fog there in the plain, in the central valleys, and some fog in western Oregon, and also the Treasure Valley of the Gem State, Idaho. Current temperatures out there. Yeah, it's kind of cold in the west. These are the lows this morning. So a lot of 20s, a lot of teens, especially in the mountains. Eastern Oregon, Eastern Washington, Nevada is a cold place this time of year, teens. Barely freezing here. That's what it is, 32 in western Iowa. A little bit above freezing today, but then it's going to drop below freezing for a few days, maybe a little bit of snow. And then to start the day, 50s is pretty warm. Texas all the way up into Indiana. All right, your 24-hour temperature change. It's warmer than yesterday, especially in the southeast, and it's colder than yesterday, especially in the northern plains, northern and central Rockies. All right, surface for today, a couple cold fronts. One front moving into the Great Lakes through Illinois, Missouri, down through Oklahoma, and edging into Texas this morning, and then trailing back into Colorado, Utah, Nevada, California. And then the colder air coming down from Canada in North Dakota, South Dakota, Montana. So that's going to be the biggest punch. Now, out ahead of all that is where we see rain all the way into the Great Lakes, where it has warmed up. Some of that will be freezing rain, Pennsylvania, New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, and a little bit of a mixture into Maine as it turns into snow in the northern areas there. And could be heavy rain for Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, even some severe weather there tomorrow. We'll talk about that here in a second. Anomalous temperatures today. It is above average for most of the country, slightly below for Central Rockies up into the northern plains. Those highs today, well, pretty warm. I mean, it's cooler than yesterday. I mean, we were close to 60 here yesterday afternoon. It was more mid to upper 50s. Today's going to be more 10 degrees cooler than that, mid to upper 40s. Where I live in western Iowa, probably mid 40s. But we still have 70s, even some 80s hanging on in Texas and Florida, which not that unusual this time of year. But kind of on the warm side, most of the country. We're going to change that. Lows, tomorrow morning, we see a lot more 20s invading the plains all the way down into Kansas, Texas Panhandle, Amarillo at freezing. Roswell, New Mexico, 37, along with Lubbock. So colder temperatures, and even colder the morning after this. So I guess that would be Wednesday morning. They're looking for a hard freeze down there in West Texas. And that cold air will spill into the south over the next few days. But tomorrow morning, pretty warm in the southeast, 60s. All right, surface for tomorrow. That cold air does go through Texas. And we see a little bit of snow up along the Canadian border in the northern plains, and a mixture moving into the Ohio Valley, Kentucky, Tennessee even. Could see some snowflakes mixed into your rain. Heavy rain, Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, with some scattered storms around that. And then we see that icy mix and mess up there in New England. Anomalous temperatures tomorrow. More areas below average, including the Four Corners and much of Texas into the South Plains. Still above average ahead of those fronts. In the east, and slightly above for parts of the west. Highs tomorrow, closer to freezing for highs here. This map has us like mid-30s. We might be a little cooler than that tomorrow here in western Iowa, but definitely colder today, and then colder on Wednesday or Tuesday. This is tomorrow, so colder tomorrow. And then we got 20s up there in the northern plains, and then 60s and 70s hanging on in the southeast. But you see West Texas cooling off. 48-hour precipitation, heavy stuff down there in the southeast. Could be over 2 inches, approaching 3 for parts of Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, the Florida Panhandle, even lingering back in Louisiana. So that's where the heavy rain will be. You see that Colorado light precipitation, that is snow. So anywhere from 4 to 8 inches, depending on elevation here. And look at that. Western Iowa with a dusting, according to the National Weather Service here. So we could see maybe a ½ inch. Maybe an inch of snow. I don't know. We're holding out hope. At least I am. And then look at this. A chance of severe weather tomorrow in the southeast. A marginal risk for the Florida Panhandle, Alabama into Georgia. And yes, that even includes a 2% chance of tornadoes in this area. So I don't think there'll be a lot of tornadoes. I don't think they'll be particularly strong if they happen, but you don't want to get hit by one. So definitely have a way to pay attention to warnings if you live in this area for tomorrow. Wednesday, here comes colder air into the central and northern plains and Midwest. We're starting to see colder air across the Great Lakes, Lake Superior, Lake Michigan, some pretty heavy lake effect snow, even some lake effect snow on this map for the eastern Great Lakes, even though otherwise it's a mix of precipitation. But cold air is coming, heavy rain, flash flooding, possible for other parts of the Northeast, especially where there's snow on the ground. If you get rain on top of that, look out. And rain lingering into the southeast too with those fronts. But the back side of the system is going to have some snow and a little bit of rain and snow for the Pacific Northwest. Continuing with Wednesday, anomalous temperatures. Here comes that cold air out of Canada, northern plains, 25 degrees below average for the Dakotas, edging into Iowa, good 10 to 15 degrees below average here, and getting into the southeast too with below average temperatures. And the warmth hanging on ahead of the front along the coast, east coast, but cold air is coming. Highs on Wednesday here in Iowa, 20s. Teens in North Dakota. Ahead of the front, though, we see like 50s and 60s in Texas, and a lot of 60s approaching 70 along the east coast. 70s, of course, for Florida. West Coast, 40s for the Willamette Valley up to Seattle. 30s when you get on the other side of the Cascades, and 20s with elevation. All right, let's take a look at the GFS, shall we? And here we see pretty good rains coming down this morning right now. Tennessee, Alabama, Mississippi, into Kentucky. Lighter rain, but still raining. Ohio, Indiana. Snow up here with the cold air intrusion. North Dakota, Montana. And otherwise not much else going on. And as we go, let me start back to today. Just going to be careful where I put that cursor. Oh, that rain is moving into the eastern Great Lakes, changing to snow as you head further north into New England. Here's our patch of snow in Colorado that's kind of fading out. I did check out Lubbock's forecast. They do have a slight chance of snow here along the Texas-New Mexico border, but again, it's fading out. So this gets us to Tuesday morning. And that cold air moving south, and it's just some very light snow here into the northern plains, but watch as a little bit of a disturbance rides down, and with some scattered light snow showers possible for eastern Nebraska, western Iowa. This is midnight Tuesday night, so maybe a dusting here, maybe a little bit more. Meanwhile, that cold front, the cold air moving south and east, and ahead of that, a cold front forming, and we're seeing showers and storms. And again, don't forget, chance of severe weather tomorrow down here in the southeast. So lining up ahead of that front as it continues to move south and east. And then a low forms on that front. On the back side, it's snow. And on the front side, it's rain and heavy rain and some thunderstorms. And then you can see why we have some flooding issues possible up here on Wednesday with heavy rain on top of what is a lot of snow on the ground. Well, I did it with the cursor again. Let's find where we were, right about here. So, again, heavy rain for the northeast on top of some snow could be flooding problems and then changing back to snow. Very windy, cold air across the Great Lakes. We get the lake effect snow back. Meanwhile, still cold in the Midwest, so staying below freezing here in Iowa for highs. Another system now moving into southern Oregon, northern California as this eastern system lifts north. But the cold air, not in the south, well, a little bit if you maybe Tennessee Valley, but most of the cold air from the northern plains through the Midwest, through the Great Lakes and east, and some wind here across the lakes too. And our next storm system moving into California and Oregon. This is Thursday morning, Thursday afternoon. And we see some light snow coming down, Colorado, Wyoming, Idaho, Oregon, some rain on the coast. And then this is not in our official forecast. So this is really interesting. This is Friday the 13th, dun, 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 a low, according to this run of the GFS, forming Kansas-Missouri border with snow for Iowa, back into Nebraska, and you to Minnesota, Wisconsin. And so, again, my official forecast out of the Omaha Weather Service Forecast Office does not have snow for me on Friday. Will they change that? I don't know. It depends on if the models have consistency. Maybe they'll put it in the forecast. But this model has snow on Friday the 13th for me and my friends in the Omaha area. All right. We've got some snow as we get into the weekend, into the Great Lakes, but a lot of rain here. Mainly, so warm enough for rain for most. Hanging on to the cold air one more day, though, for Iowa as we head into Saturday. And then a really strong storm moving into the Pacific Northwest as well. So this is the weekend. And we see some scattered snows there moving across. And some heavy rain for the East Coast. And then another system busting out with some showers and storms. And then that system means business for the Pacific Northwest. A lot of rain, low elevation rain, and then snow inland and higher elevations. Then we got Wednesday the 18th, another little disturbance here in the Midwest for some possible light snow. All right. So let's go through the forecast temperatures for the rest of this week. We'll pick it up on Thursday. And we're still in below freezing here in Iowa. You know, I've been heading out to the lake almost every day, checking the ice progress. There were some puddles yesterday on that ice, mid-50s, you could imagine. Below freezing this morning, 40s today, and then we start our consecutive days below freezing. Thursday is one of them. Friday is another one of them. Saturday is another one of them. And then Sunday maybe inching above freezing here in western Iowa. Now, going back to Thursday so we can watch the other trends. So you see the cold air, northern plains, Midwest, Great Lakes. And then Friday, more of that warmth lifting northward from Texas, South Plains, into the southeast, starting to warm up a little bit as we head into, this is Saturday. But again, holding on to that cold air in the Midwest and the upper Midwest, moving into the Great Lakes a little bit. Sunday, that cold air erodes a little more, and we just kind of hang in there with warmish temperatures in the southeast. 50s and 60s is not super warm. And then, so that rounds out the weekend. And then as we head into 8 to 14 day temperature forecast, depressing if you like winter. It's like a really good chance of above average temperatures for pretty much the entire country. Maybe equal chances, southern Florida. Same for Alaska, same for Hawaii. Craziness. Precipitation-wise, pretty dry too, although a slight chance of above average precipitation, Texas, Oklahoma, into Louisiana, Arkansas, way up there. in northern New England, way down there in southern Florida, and then for the Pacific Northwest, including Northern California. So there you go. So a couple cold air intrusions this week, but it looks like the trend is for warmer as we get closer to Christmas. And I did pull up a white Christmas map. The model doesn't quite go out that far, so I'm going to save it. Maybe we'll start tomorrow and start tracking it. But right now it's very uncertain. I mean, it's only just December 9th, but we will keep you posted as we go, of course. So thanks again for tuning in. Really appreciate you. We'll see you tomorrow right here on the Weather Mic.